Good afternoon, and welcome to the July 27th, 2020 Park Advisory Committee meeting of the East Bay Regional Park District. Chair Rickard, would you like me to take roll call?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Board Member Ellen Corbett.
Here.
Thank you. Chair Rickard.
Here.
Vice Chair Obringer. Vice Chair Obringer. Let's see, Member Andrade. Oh, he's just coming in. Member Best.
Here.
Member Brubaker.
Here.
Member Buren.
Here.
Member Burke.
Here.
Member Carey.
Here.
Member Corkin. Member Corkin. Okay. Member DeChambeau is here. Member Dieter.
Here.
Member Gregory.
Here.
Member Ho. Member Ho is here. Member Lacey. Member Lacey. Member Nason. Member Nason. No. Member Robinson.
Here.
Member San Juan is coming in late. Member Skardoff.
Here.
Member Satsui is absent today. Member Williams. I do not see him. Okay. Thank you.
Hello.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. And also staff present, Chief of Government and Legislative Affairs, Eric Fuller, Chief Administrator Officer, Juliana Schermer, Acting CFO of Finance and AGM of Management Services, Deborah Spalding, AGM of Public Safety, Chief Anthony Chiaburo, additional staff, Jeff Rasmussen, Lisa Georgian, Yolanda Burial Knight, Lisa Baldinger, Matthew James, Robin Weems with Prime Gov. Have I missed anybody?
I just arrived. Lou Andrade.
Oh, thank you. Yes. And also just arrived is Vice Chair Obringer.
My apologies for being late.
That's fine.
Right.
Thank you.
Glad you're here.
Me too.
Okay. Today's Park Advisory Committee meeting is held in accordance with Governor Newsom's executive order allowing for committee members to participate in standing committee meetings remotely. We are providing a live audio streaming and have provided the public the opportunity to email or call in prior to the meeting for public comment. This information can be found on the agenda on the district website, ebparks.org. Do any committee members have any questions about the meeting procedures? I will mention that if you open the participants list, there is a link at the bottom to raise your hand. So when we get to the point of asking for input, that's a good way to make known your desire to be heard. Hearing no questions, we'll begin the agenda. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes of the June 22nd, 2020 Park Advisory Committee meeting.
I move approval of the minutes.
Seconded.
Been moved by Member Obringer and seconded by, is that Linda?
Yes.
Linda, is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Recording Secretary, will you call the roll for a vote on approval of the minutes?
Yes, thank you, Chair Rickard. Vice Chair Obringer,
Yes.
Member Andrade,
Yes.
Member Best,
Yes.
Member Brubaker,
Yes.
Member Buren,
Yes.
Member Burke,
Yes.
Member Carey,
Aye.
Member DeChambeau,
Yes.
Member Dieter,
Yes.
Member Gregory,
Aye.
Member Ho, Member Ho? I do not see her. Member Ho, could you unmute yourself? Okay. Let's see. Member Robinson?
Aye.
Member Skardoff?
Here.
And that's everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We will now move on to board member comments. We're joined today by Director Corbett, board member from Ward 4. Ellen, if you would like to take the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair Ricard, and thank you everyone for everything you're doing. I know that we keep saying it, these are very unusual times. However, I've coined a new term for the East Bay Regional Park District, and that includes the foundation and the PAC board, the East Bay Park District, where no one skips a beat. So we have lots of these things, but the reason I say that is obviously you are all forging ahead, doing the very important work, as a community, reviewing all of our programs, our operations, giving us the very important feedback that you do, which we so much appreciate. The foundation, times are a little tough, but I just was on a foundation meeting Thursday as well. They're still moving forward, making their plans, putting together great programs as well, taking into consideration the times, but continuing to move forward. And you'll hear a little later on today also about from some of the capital projects we continue to work on at the Park District. We're moving forward, we're putting out the bids, we're getting things done, we're completing projects. One really nice part of that is we're putting money out into the economy as workers get to work on these projects as we move forward. And one thing I want to emphasize today, without skipping a beat, is that there's some really amazing work being done by our naturalists. And if you haven't already done so, please spend some time on our East Bay Regional Park District website and take a look at these amazing programs, environmental education programs, talking about the flora and the fauna in the Park District, our watersheds, all of the important lessons that our naturalists used to do in person with students who were coming on field trips or meeting with teachers and their students in smaller groups, and the hikes and all of the other wonderful programs that we've had in our campgrounds and in our parks and on our trails. Those are continuing. And there's some amazing clips, video clips, that are available on the website for you to see. I direct you to them because it's such a very positive experience, because as you watch them, you can't help but smile as you encounter the enthusiasm of our naturalists in sharing their wisdom about the natural world. And it's a great place to go to if you know someone who has children at home, to give them an opportunity to learn a little something and see something fun. And also, obviously, it's great for content to include if teachers are looking for great content on the natural world in their lesson plans. But it's very upbeat, it's very well done, and it will put a smile on your face. So even though there's a little bit of doom and gloom, please take some time, if you can, to go to the website and check out our digital naturalist programs. It's just another example of the Park District not skipping a beat. And you'll also see that the naturalists are continuing to do field trips. They're just virtual. So with that, again, thank you all for all that you're doing. And thank you for helping us not skip a beat here at the Park District.
Thank you.
And the website is the East Bay Regional Park District website.
Okay. I will add to your comment that I watched on Facebook the other day a video by Morgan Gunther in which she imitated a series of animals. And it was one of the most entertaining videos I have seen in a long time. It's really great. Are there questions for Director Corbett? Carlin, I believe you have a question.
Yes, I do. I want to thank you for your presentation. I read recently that it's really good for our mental health to watch videos, wildlife and nature. So it sounds like this is right in alignment with what mental health experts are recommending we do during these challenging times. And I know that one of the Park District goals is to continue to ensure access or greater access to the parks and in outdoor spaces for people of color. And so I'm just wondering, are these videos, are they just offered in English, or are there also Spanish language videos as well?
Very happy to answer that question. We're rolling out a whole series of them, including in Spanish.
Oh, wonderful.
You'll be very pleased to see that. We were all very thrilled to see that too. And we do have bilingual naturalists. So we have the, we do have such videos that we will be making available as well. So thank you for pointing that out, because that's very, very important that we serve all of our communities, especially at this time.
Yes, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Are there any other questions for Director Corbett? Hearing none, thank you very much, Director Corbett, and you're welcome to stay with us for the rest of the meeting if you'd like.
Okay, thank you.
The next item on our agenda is a foundation update from Juliana Schermer.
If I can get this right, hello everybody. His Director Corbett just shared the Regional Parks Foundation. We're doing well. Our operations are continuing. We're all working remotely, fielding and answering many, many letters and phone calls from members and donors. Our campership appeal has done very well. It's trending the same as last year, which is showing people still want to see children connect to nature and experience the Park District programs, even if they're virtual and in a different format than we normally present them. So that's all great news. I think our biggest challenge right now is with our membership program, as you would expect. We had budgeted just over $1 million in revenue this year for membership. That's our largest unrestricted category of giving. And that is the fund where we are able to give the most back to the district for these types of programs. And we are currently anticipating about a 35 to 40% reduction in that revenue for the remainder of this year. There's a couple of things that I think are impacting that. Number one, our retention rate has dropped slightly. Normally our retention rate is between 85 and 87%, which is fantastic for any sort of affiliation type membership program. But the Park District is not currently accepting fees in the kiosks. And I think a lot of members have come to realize that they're able to come in and park and not need to take advantage of their membership benefits. So they might be waiting and holding off on their renewals. Additionally, our new memberships have pretty much kind of flatlined. And I think a reason for that as well is the kiosks had become our largest source of new members. We sold, I think, upwards of 1,000 of them last year, just through, the summer months in the different kiosks at the parks. So we're hopeful that once all of those things reopen, we'll be able to regain our momentum. If not, we have some other ideas of doing some of our own tabling in the parks and coming up with some, protective booths where we can go out and sell memberships, but we're holding off on that until parks start collecting fees. So that's our basic update. I will say we are still prepared to give all of our allocations to Park District programming this year. We did ask all of the naturalists and program managers to turn in a modification. So we're giving in a different way. And then we're also looking at projections and giving for next year. But right now it's looking like we can meet all of our obligations, and we're doing what we can to raise as much money as we can.
Great, thank you. Are there questions for Juliana? Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
See you again next month. The next item on the agenda is our public comments. And Eric Feeler, did you want to make a statement here before the public comments?
Yeah, hi, good evening, everyone. I just wanted to acknowledge the hard work that Sharon Clay has put into this meeting together. She's had a tremendously busy time period at work and elsewhere. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that this was an extremely busy week with a board meeting last week, and also needing to get all the resolutions out, adopted resolutions out during the middle of the week, and then trying to put all this stuff, pull this together and get out the materials. So just wanted to thank Sharon for her hard work on this meeting tonight.
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you, Sharon, for your hard work. And I know having to deal with getting things posted on the web when the webmaster is on vacation and other things makes it more challenging than usual, but we appreciate it. Do we have any public comments?
Thank you, Chair Rickard. Yes, we do. Kelly Abreu would like to speak.
All right. Kelly, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Whoops. Can you hear me right now?
Yes, I hear you.
All right. So complacency is not the right strategy during a pandemic and economic crisis. All sides won't agree. Disagreement and constructive conflict are needed to find solutions. Take a look at BART. Ridership is down and their situation is very serious, and members of their board are sounding the alarm. BART Director Elizabeth Ames said last April, quote, "The pandemic should be a wake-up call to complacent unions and policymakers. We need to lay out steps to reduce expenses. We need to reimagine and plan for the worst case," end quote. Director Deborah Allen said last week that the board of directors is, quote, "committed to the primary goal of maintaining status quo with respect to labor costs. Given that labor costs make up 70% of the budget, that commitment immediately limits the agency's ability to cut spending. It meant that revenue assumptions are being driven by planned expenditures instead of the other way around. BART's failure to cut operating expenses will continue to worsen its grave financial condition and cause irreparable harm to the long-term sustainability of the system. This park district needs clear-eyed vision, and it needs board leadership to address the difficult challenges. Visitor counts are rising. People need parks now more than ever, but property tax revenues are poised to drop in the future. Management and board are still clinging to an outdated forecast of strong revenue growth, 5% per year for the next 5 years. Unreasonably strong. BART and the park district both need strong leadership and truth-telling and courage on the part of their boards of directors to address the crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. I guess we will now move on to our presentations. The first presentation is the impacts of the coronavirus on East Bay Park users by Eric Feeler and Lisa Baldinger. So I'll turn it over to the two of you.
Thanks, Rick. First of all, I want to acknowledge the person behind the screen is Julie Padmore running the slides tonight and put together this PowerPoint. So I want to thank her for her excellent work on that, and also want to thank Lisa for her support and help and tactical brilliance in designing the instrument that we're going to be discussing tonight. You know, we all know that we're busy, you know, especially those of our staff who are in the field and are seeing the real impacts of visitation and the surge in visitation. And it's like we've been all along that we're the only game in town. And our job at government affairs is to harness that knowledge and use it for advocacy, not only to protect our funding that we have, but perhaps receive emergency funding as federal funding comes through, even potential state, and then also, you know, keep the long-term trust of our community and the folks that use the parks for future advocacy efforts. So in order to take a snapshot of what that means in real scientific data terms, we commissioned a survey in mid-May, May 11th through 18th, with an N of 500 respondents. It was pretty much evenly split, Contra Costa and Alameda County. And so to share those results tonight, Lisa and I would like to walk you through them, and then we'll be answering any questions you might have once we get to the end. So Yuli, if you could please pull up the, I guess we actually can go on to the second slide at this point. Next slide, please. So this is pretty eye-popping. I don't know that anything's ever been 100% in any survey we've ever done, but the awareness question, at least this time around, got 100%. So that's a pretty impressive figure. And I guess there's only one way you can go from there, right? Next slide, please. So we asked the question how important it's been to have regional parks and trails open during the pandemic, and 96% of the respondents said important or very important. I think that was a number that was even higher than we had anticipated we would receive. And I think it actually demonstrates that we are on the right side of history by keeping parks open at this time. Next slide. And then we wanted to know, in the future, would parks play a greater or equal role? And we have a 94% response that it would be greater or equal. And 40% of that is saying somewhat or much greater. So that's an increase in trust and in loyalty and in the importance of our parks to the folks that were surveyed in this questionnaire. Next slide. And then we wanted to know about the quality of life and health and well-being. We had a 90% response to this one, which was still a little higher than we expected, but we usually do get a very high number on quality of life, regardless of when we're commissioning a survey. Next slide. And then the decision to keep parks open, again, 90%. So we're being fairly consistent there that this was an important thing to do and is an important thing to do, and that we'll continue to provide these sort of essential activities for the community going forward. Next slide. And so here's the question. Should we be considered an essential service and our staff essential service providers during a pandemic? This is really important, particularly when advocating for federal funding. Essential services are the first to obviously get reimbursed for costs related to something like the COVID pandemic. So for the purposes of something that we're actually providing the one healthy activity that people can more or less safely participate in, this is a key number for us to share with our legislators in Washington. Next slide. And then I'm sure folks are reading and hearing about the fact that there's likely to be another COVID-related relief package coming from Congress. There's negotiations occurring as we speak. And there's some question about how much local and state assistance will be provided. We want to be in the conversation as an independent special district, as a local government, to be eligible and receive some of that funding. And so we asked the question, because of our impact on physical and psychological health, should we be receiving money to reimburse ourselves for the costs of incurred by the pandemic? And we had a 75% yes response. Next slide, please. I send over to Lisa.
Hello, good evening. My name is Lisa Baldinger, for those that I haven't met yet in person, and I look forward to doing that. And I'm the Legislative and Policy Management Analyst on the Government Affairs team. So to continue our discussion, early on, we were trying to learn about what the public felt about parks being open, and we read on some of our social media accounts, in particular next door, there were discussions of, well, parks are easy to keep open. It's a dirt trail, it's fine. And so from there, our public affairs team really took that and turned that into a public education campaign. So for those of you who follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you've probably seen this I Am EBRPD and Together We Are EBRPD campaign. And that occurred about 2 months prior to the survey being in the field, where we provided public education on our staff. And so we were delighted to see that in terms of keeping the parks open, relative to that, 96% share that they feel that the role of the park employee is significant, because without the park employee, the parks wouldn't exist. And so this was excellent feedback to see. Next slide, please. To get a baseline as part of this survey, so the ultimate goal was to understand use before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and how experiences in parks and open space may change how our public relates to these areas after the pandemic. And so Eric shared that individuals polled believe that 40% will increase their use after the pandemic. So to get a baseline of what that actually looks like is we asked about prior to the pandemic, how often did you use the parks? And so the way we read this slide is that those who use it often, maybe they live near a park and they're using it for their daily jog. Those who visit sometimes are our weekend visitors who come when convenient. Rarely might be individuals who come out for holidays and family gatherings, and never hopefully have shifted into use now for health and wellness. And so this was our baseline. And then as Eric shared, there's that 40% who feel that their use will increase. So maybe they went rarely and now they'll go sometimes. So this was to establish a baseline. Next slide, please. We've also been very pleased and happy to be partnering with our health departments during this time to ensure that we are giving the best guidance, best practices in terms of face coverings, physical distance between yourself and other hikers. When in a park should the face covering be applied, which is 30 feet when you see someone, you should be putting it on. And so we want to understand how much of those who were served were aware that we're partnering with our health department. And we found that 44% were aware. And then of those 44, about 39% did have it impact their opinion to the percentage that Eric shared earlier, which is that 90% of survey respondents feel the park should be open. And so we had this subset that was influenced by our partnership with the health department. We've since been lucky enough to do some public education campaigns over television and radio. That's the image at the top where our health professionals came to a park and shared information about getting outside safely, wearing your mask, etc. Next slide, please. With this, I'll hand it back over to Eric.
Okay, I apologize. We have a train coming by, so I'll try.
And I will pick it up and then let me know when the train's done. But so we also wanted to get a baseline for how fear, anxiety, mental, physical, psychological, and community health were factoring in. So these were just some baseline questions that we were asking in May to understand how our community was feeling. And so in terms of the fear and anxiety of COVID, we did find that 85% are really feeling that at that time in May. 15% did not feel any fear. And this is relative to economic stability. And we will have some funding questions later in the survey. Next slide, please.
I can come back now. Sorry about that. So we wanted to also have a sense of the distinction between psychological and physical well-being. Actually, I found these numbers fairly eye-popping, although perhaps maybe thinking about it more, it's not so surprising just how important the mental aspect, the stress relief that the parks and the relief from fear and anxiety that parks can help with at this time. And I actually found myself when I filled out, I'm sort of spoiler alert because we now have the survey online. But when I went through the survey myself, I actually said mental, just mental, because because of the parks, I am getting some physical exercise, and because there's other trails open, I can get exercise. But the mental part is the really key, and I just found that 40% that said only mental and psychological is really quite a high number, and then. Compounding that to some extent is the second question, whether or not people thought that these impacts would be lasting for a long time as opposed to short-lived. And so you have 74% of the respondents saying it'll be a lasting impact on both their mental and physical well-being moving forward. And that's a number we really need to pay attention to as an agency and as a community. And I think it's super important that we are aware of that. And it does also speak to the district's Healthy Parks, Healthy People initiative. Clearly, we would never have foreseen where we're at today when that began about 10 years ago. But clearly, the Park District's role in health is really significant. Next slide, please. And then again, we asked the question, the concept of being the only game in town, as other things are being phased in, we're going to remain open. So it's going to be a long time before we're going to concerts and baseball games. And so how important will it be for the parks to be open as other things start to become phased in? Again, a very high number, 94% important. Next slide, please. And then this is an interesting question because we asked it in May. I think maybe if you ask now, especially with unemployment extension benefits potentially expiring at the end of the month, the extra $600, we might see a different answer on this question. It might be maybe the reverse of the 37% saying return and 54% saying they would cut back. But we wanted to know if people felt optimistic about returning to their spending habits. And it's a little bit of a mixed result. But again, I think it would really yield a different result if it were to be asked today. Next slide. And then again, another kind of muddled result. We asked about should state and federal governments be investing more tax dollars to increase the number of parks, and still a 53% yes, so that's still a very positive response. And then the 14% unsure shows that either there's the economic anxiety or we didn't frame the question right, and it could be a little bit of both. Next slide, please. And then again, this was also a muddled result, but again, not a very direct question, just asking, would you be willing, you and your family be willing to pay more? We just wanted to get a snapshot as to where people, what people might be thinking with that regard to that. We didn't want to specify whether it would be a bond, statewide bond, whether this would be more revenue through some other measure or something through the federal government. It was just intended to see what's your willingness to pay. And it's 50%, that's significant, but it was still definitely a mixed result. Next slide. And then this is Lisa's.
So we wanted to understand with our more conservative approach to spending in the future years where the public is really interested in seeing the district focus. The top result is summer jobs and local youth corps. So that's something that's mutually beneficial where we're able to bring in and provide job skills and we get some trail work done and maybe vegetation reduction, et cetera. So that was significantly the highest result, closely followed, or not closely followed significantly, by summer activities for local youth. So getting out on the trail for youth who haven't been in physical school, able to get outside and stretch their legs. The third result was additional hand washing stations to provide for sanitation well out in the parks outside of the restrooms. The third one is for additional visitor use facilities such as restrooms to provide for additional sanitation facilities. That is then closely followed by increase and improve access to regional park trails, which is always something the district is striving for, looking for ways that we can expand to welcome our community. Next slide, please. The bottom 5 of those that we tested is the modification of picnic tables to accommodate for social distancing. Didn't get as high as we were expecting. Additional water bottle filling stations, which on previous surveys had come out far and above the highest, is now a little bit lower as priorities shift and change in our public. The idea of increasing and improving parking areas got about not so much of a response as we were expecting. Expansion of aquatic facilities to allow for social or physical distancing is also lower on the list. And then what we might want to look into phrasing in future years, but it's the idea of widening trails or building parallel trails to allow for that physical distancing for our hikers, walkers, bike riders, etc. Next slide, please. Here we just wanted to establish what a daily fitness routine during shelter in place looks like. The top result is walking for our public, getting out and walking. I always love this slide because of the I wash my hands shirt. So I just wanted to highlight that as well with our safe mask park users. That's followed by working out at home. So possibly YouTube or home workouts. Hiking is lower, and we feel this is a semantics thing that we've been seeing in more recent polling, is that when we use hiking, it really resonates, but when we use walking, it really resonates, but hiking maybe not so much because they're thinking, okay, it's a big trek versus a leisurely hike or a walk in a park. Still working out at a gym, and then running is a little bit lower on the list. Next slide, please. And you can go ahead and click, I think we have animations, but here we want to understand for those who were polled, this was a landline survey that was conducted and our demographics were in the 50 to 60 range. And so we wanted to understand where are they getting the majority of their information from. The top result for those who were surveyed is television. Then we have our social media, our other resources. And then really to highlight on this slide is that friends, families, and coworkers, which has in previous non-shelter-in-place slides really been far and above the top place people get their information from, is now the lowest due to the shelter-in-place circumstances. Next slide, please. And just for comparison, so we wanted to look at, this came from our Facebook demographic information, and we want to look at the demographics who were surveyed in this survey via landlines versus those who are interacting with our website and social media. And so this first slide is for eastbayparks.org, and you can really see the spike in information when we put out new messages to the public regarding openings, safety protocols, et cetera. And so we really can have a physical viewing of how often people are engaging with us. And Eric pointed this out the other day, which is if you look on the right side of the map, you're still getting higher engagement than we were prior to COVID. So we're really getting a lot of that interaction with the public, whether it be on our naturalist programming, just updating on the COVID safety standards in the parks. So we're glad to see this is being used as a resource for our public. Next slide, please. In this next slide, this translates well to how we'll be concluding today's presentation, which is in order to expand who we're hearing from and really listen and learn from our community, we have posted this survey to our website in English and in Spanish, and we'll be sharing it over our social media accounts. So this slide shows us our social media usage at the Park District. You can see that the top usage is the 25 to 34-year-olds, followed by 35 to 44. We get the most engagement on Facebook. And then you can see the different cities that we're able to interact with Santa Clara and San Francisco being the second and third, but closely followed by Alameda, Berkeley, and others. So we're excited about this second phase of this survey. Next slide, please. We're just asking everyone. And so we ask all of you if you could please share this link through your networks. It's in both English and Spanish, and we'll be having it up from, it's been posted since July 2020 through the end of the year, so we can continue to learn how our public and how they're experiencing our parklands. So with that, I'll give it back to Eric to conclude the presentation.
I think we're concluded. I did want to say that we're going to continue other forms of research to see how much of an impact the Park District is having at this time. So Lisa's spearheading a couple efforts in addition to this survey to try to drill down and reach different audiences to learn more about the role that we're playing. So that the work is going to continue. And this is just a snapshot in time, but we think it was important and interesting to learn where we stood, and we're very, very proud of the work that our employees do. It really shows when we do these kinds of surveys that we're getting these high numbers. The trust in the community is really high, and so we're going to do our best to make sure that we retain that trust. And we want to thank you all for the great advice that you've provided throughout the years and keeping us on track. And so looking forward to answering any questions and then the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Yuli and Lisa and Eric. Are there questions for them?
This is Roland. I have a question. Thank you, Lisa and Eric, for your presentation. Firstly, are we able to get the presentation? That would be great.
I think Yuli's already posted it.
Has she? Okay. The second question, I heard that the survey was in Spanish and in English. How was the determination made that it was only in those two languages? And do we have other major people groups in the Bay Area, you know, maybe Mandarin, Cantonese, something like that? How was it determined to do it in those two languages only?
Thank you for that question. It is my personal dream to see the survey language translated into every single language that anyone in the East Bay speaks. But at this time, we are basing that was based off of last year in 2019, we did a park and public interest survey, which was offered in English, Spanish, Korean, and Chinese. And the top results were English and Spanish, where we got the most engagement. And so At this time, we're continuing with an English and a Spanish survey, but we look forward to translating into more languages in time.
Any other questions? If not.
I did see Linda. Looks like Director Corbett has a question.
Oh. Director Corbett?
Yeah. Is this the same survey that Ned McKay referred to in the East Bay Times this weekend?
It's the same survey that Representative DeSaulnay and George Miller referred to in their op-ed in the Times this weekend.
Because there was a survey that Ned McKay wrote about this weekend. Is that a different?
It's the same survey.
Okay, all right, great. And then I just want to make a quick comment. I just, this is such great information. It's so important to have this sort of data, and it shows the importance of, the work that's done in government affairs with the advocacy that's so important to share with our elected officials, so that when they are making decisions with regard to resources, that they make sure they share them with park districts. So it's really important to know how people are thinking and feeling, but it's also just great to have this data so we can, prove the point when we go out to be advocates on behalf of the park district. So it's really great. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim O'Connor, did you want to say something? No? Oh, okay. I saw your mic was on. I thought you might have a comment. Igor has a question, I believe.
Yes, thank you. I was wondering if you did an analysis of what the responses were based upon which language you used. Were there any significant interesting differences or convergences that you noticed?
We haven't yet concluded this survey for the Spanish and English version, but that's a wonderful question that we can answer when we do have that data compiled.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that, thank you. And that kind of relates to, I saw Linda had a question in the chat about how many people have filled out the survey. And so just to be clear, the results we showed you just now are part of a scientific survey that we commissioned. Currently, those same questions are online on our website for anyone to answer, and the posting on the website is both in English and Spanish. So we haven't had time to actually analyze the results because it's going to be, it just got posted and it's going to be on for a while. And I don't know the answer to Linda's question. She wanted to know how many people have filled it out yet. I don't remember, and I don't know if Lisa knows, but I don't remember that we've received any results, but I do know some people have already filled it out because we have gotten some comments about it.
I believe Rick referenced to our webmaster being out of the office, so we look forward to learning when he gets back.
Great. Yes, for those of you who do not have the chat box open, links to the survey and the results have been posted there by Lisa. So if you're looking for that, you can find it in the chat box. Any other questions? If not, thank you again very much for an interesting survey. And we will move on to our next agenda item, which is an update on the 2020 capital projects presented by Lisa Gourgian, the manager of the design and construction project manager, I believe. Is that right, Lisa?
Yeah, the chief of design and construction. So,
Chief, thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon. Should I start?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So good afternoon, Park Advisory Commission and Board President Corbett. Let's see, I'm going to share my screen, which I used to be really good at. Let's see if I can remember. This is what happens when you go on vacation. How does that look?
That looks good. We see it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. So I think I was here last year about this time, and I gave a presentation following up on the presentation we had given at the board workshop on capital projects. And so I find myself here again this afternoon giving an excerpt of just the capital project presentation portion of that workshop. But it did include a link to the entire packet in my memo to the Park Commission. So the PAC. So for the full presentation information, you can see that, but I'm going to focus just today on capital projects. So in the board packet, there's a comprehensive list of all of the projects that are currently on our work plan that we're working on. And so there's 74 of them, and I didn't want to go into detail about all of them, but certainly I would encourage you to, if you're interested, to look at that information that it's posted on our website. And I think there's a link on the YouTube if you want to watch the whole thing too, but it lists all the 74 projects. And then I also included a link to our budget document that lists all of our projects. And so the information in our board workshop packet references each of the projects by page number in our budget book. And so that gives a 1-sentence description, 1 or 2-sentence description. It has a couple more photos as well. So I'm not going to talk about all of the projects right now, but I'm going to be highlighting the sort of the kind of the breadth of the projects we do, from restoration to major capital maintenance to projects that are new, where we're expanding the park district's capacity. And I'll be talking about them both in terms of those, sort of categorizing them those ways, but then also in terms of the phases that they're in. So they're in construction right now, or design and permit, pre-design, and that's how they're also described in our budget book. And then I'm going to be talking about upcoming projects that we're going to be taking to the board for board action, and projects that we anticipate opening that will be new assets in the next 5 years. So this is a map that is a little bit tiny in the board packet. You can also look at it and zoom in, but it's really meant to show geospatially sort of where all the projects are throughout the district that we're working on. And instead of talking about them in terms of what kind of project, we're talking about here what phase they're in. So it shows the completed projects, projects that are in construction now and will be in construction through the end of the year, projects that are in design and permit phase, and then pre-design. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of each of the kind of projects. So this is an example of a maintenance project that we're working on. This is repairing the swim lagoon at Contra, Loma. It needed repairs to make sure it was secure for waterproofing. And it's what we'd consider a major capital maintenance project. I have some other examples listed as well, but just kind of gives you a sense of the kind of major capital maintenance we do. This is an example of a restoration project that we're working on. It's under construction right now as well. This is a picture of at Sibley McCosker Creek, where we are restoring over 300 linear feet of creek that was previously culverted under about 30 feet of fill. So it's a pretty major restoration project. It's pretty exciting. This is a project that came to us from stewardship. We're working with our stewardship department that had been identified, and kind of a pre-design, a concept for how we were going to be restoring it. Then it came to design and construction to oversee the design, permit, and construction. And I should mention previously when we were talking about, when I was just mentioning the Contra Loma, many of our maintenance projects, they really come to us from our throughout the district and get vetted through the leadership. So that's usually when something's at the end of its life cycle, or there's been an issue that's an incident that's created a health, safety, welfare circumstance. And so we'll work on those. And finally, this is an example of where we're expanding the district's capacity by adding a new asset, major capital asset. So this is Shadow Cliffs. You can see the solar panels in the background, where we are working with our public affairs and the Park Foundation with a grant from the Valley Foundation to build a interpretive pavilion that's right as the gateway to the Arroyo. So we're overseeing the structure, the design and construction of the pavilion, and then the creative design group will be coming in with which has worked on the design and fabrication and installation of all the interpretive exhibits that will be in the pavilion. So that should be done by the end of the year. And there's some other examples as well. So last year we had a kind of a montage. This year we're just having 2 slides to show our completed projects from last June to this June. This is a photo taken of the Black Diamond Mine coal exhibit, which is of course snuggled into a silica mine, and it will be, it's complete. We were planning to have an opening in March, and then of course everything's put on hold. So hopefully next year the mine will be open and this exhibit will be ready for folks to come see it. And then this is an example of where it came to our attention from the park operations that one of our bridges along the Lafayette-Moraga Trail was nearing the end of its life span, and so we were able to replace that last summer. And so that is, if you haven't been out there, it's quite lovely because this is something you can access right now. So I wanted to just spend another moment on environmental major restoration projects, and our environmental programs unit typically has done very large projects. And so 2 of those I wanted to highlight because one is complete and one's almost complete. At McLaughlin East Shore, there was restoration done on Albany Beach and also improving public access, and also filling a gap in the Bay Trail. So sort of an amazing engineering feat to put the trail from Buchanan Fields on the west side, the water side of Golden Gate Fields, to connect with Albany Beach. And so that was completed last month. There was a virtual ribbon cutting weekend before last. So that was quite a celebration virtually. But I would encourage you, if you haven't been out there, it's really quite lovely. And also at Bay Point, a project to bring the site up to sea level rise for climate resiliency and make improvements for public access. So you can see there's a new bridge for walking, the walking trails, also restroom improvements to the parking lot. So that's anticipated to be complete in the next few weeks, in fact. So I wanted to talk next about upcoming projects that we'll be bringing to the board for board action or input. This is just a kind of a reminder graphic. I shared it last year about sort of the kind of the trajectory of how projects come to us and where our touch points are with the board. So this is in the packet as well. So upcoming projects that we have are, I've divided up to projects that are currently in construction, projects in design permitting, and then pre-design. And so right now we have Dunbarton Quarry that is under construction, and it's anticipated to be finished next year. But we are going to be coming to the board to amend the construction management contract, and we have some other contracts that we had been anticipating to amend, and so we'll be coming to the board with those. Projects in design and permitting, also at Coyote Hills and on the little bit more east, a property that was dedicated to the district that had agricultural use. In order to continue with that, the district is replacing the well there. So we anticipate coming to the board for a construction contract to do that well replacement. Also, Doolittle Trail, which is part of Martin Luther King Jr. Shoreline. That was the very first photo on the, as part of my presentation. We anticipate coming for a construction management contract. That is a pretty large and complex project that's in Caltrans right-of-way. And so it's anticipated, we've expected that we would need construction management services for that, again, because of the scope, complexity, and size of that project. Also, along Martin Luther King Jr., we have a new day use area that's part of the Tidewater Center. And so as that project, before we can make improvements for the day use area, we need to bring it up to be resilient to sea level rise. And so that would be a first phase that we anticipate coming to the board with. Also with Roberts Pool, we have been working on that to renovate, to do a major replacement of that pool. And again, because of the complexity of that work and the scope of it, how large that project will be, we're going to be needing a construction management assistant for that as well. And also with Coyote Hills, we are also designing and constructing a service yard. This is a little bit different in that the campground was designed and being built by Dunbarton Quarry Associates. So through an agreement with the district, they are developing that and will be turning it over once it's complete. The service yard, the district is design and constructing. And so we're moving along with that and anticipating coming to the board before the end of the year with some action items for construction management and to begin construction, ideally. We're still in the permitting, and so that's, but we're optimistic. Finally, projects that are in preliminary design right now, we are working on just the beginning program phase of figuring out sort of who's going where and what the program elements are on a new building the district acquired for district headquarters, which is right across the street from our existing headquarter building. So we anticipate coming to the board just with an update on where we are with that project, not necessarily any action needed. And with Anthony Chabot, this is a photo of Anthony Chabot Park, which is so lovely. And we are looking at the infrastructure around the campground, That's at the end of its, kind of nearing the end of its life cycle. We know that we need to be upgrading the sewer, electric, water. We also need to be anticipating expansion. So again, expanding the capacity of that campground. And so before we start into a design, we need to understand sort of what the existing conditions are and where do we want to go and have that feasibility study done. We'll be working with the Trails program on an update on the Orwood Bridge trail connections later this year, and then also coming with an update on the Contra Loma Swim Lagoon. I mentioned we're repairing it right now for waterproofing, but also that facility, when it was constructed, it had dual sort of swimming pool with sand component for the recreational play value. And it's really not sustainable situation operationally. The sand is very hard on the pool operations. And so we're looking at some options to remove the sand, have some other recreational play that can be in the sand's place. But that's just again, a kind of pre-design that we'll be bringing to the board. So finally, I just wanted to summarize. I talked a lot about a lot of projects, and there's a lot of projects in that list that you can reference in the packet. But just to highlight projects that really are just where we're expanding capacity. So new facilities that we're not currently taking care of, but we'll be needing to operate. Public safety will need to be checking in on them when they open. And so we've listed them here just to kind of highlight them. So I'm not going to go through them, but they kind of give you a sense of what's coming up. And with that, this is actually a photo at Concord Hills of all of the ASD, the Acquisition, Stewardship, and Development Division last year, but it was such a nice photo, I thought I would end with it. Rick, I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Lisa. Are there questions for Lisa? No. Wow.
Hi, Lisa. This is Roland.
Hi.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
I had one question. There was the one vertical project that I think you said you were looking for CM for that work. Is that because that's a unique project to the district, in that typically if it's parks and lands and kind of more civil work, you guys see them in-house, and is that the reason why you're looking for CM for that particular project?
Yeah. Which project did you say? You said a vertical project?
It was a building. It looked like that.
Oh, a service yard. Yes. Yeah. So we look towards construction management to have that outside provided when a project is usually about $1 million or more and is pretty complex. So it has some specialized, like the service yard is a building, or if we're in Caltrans right away, or a swimming pool. So on our staff, we have building inspectors, but and so on smaller projects, it's a kind of a combination of the building inspector or construction inspector. I shouldn't say building inspector, it's a construction inspector, and our project managers. And they work to provide kind of that oversight with logging all the submittals and the request for information and all that goes into that. But on really large projects, we just find ourselves that it's best to have to bring in that air of expertise, so that it maintains our inspectors' abilities to continue to work on many projects rather than having their time taken up by one project. And as you see, we have a lot of projects. So we work as part of the scoping when we're looking at how we're going to deliver the projects. That's a determination that we try to make early on so we can account for that in the schedule and the budget.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Lou Andrade.
You're welcome.
Lou Andrade, you're on mute. Do you have a question?
Okay, sorry. Hello, I'm on? Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Oh, it says, okay, so all I was gonna say is some years ago you did a project in Livermore, well, I guess Pleasanton, the Shadow Cliffs, and you put solar there. And I'm assuming that you had some need for electrical pumps or whatever. I'm not sure. Maybe you sold it out as well. I was wondering about Contra Loma. It seems, have you had plans to do other solar projects in the district? And I was thinking Contra Loma only because it's pretty sunny out there. And I'm sure you have a lot of pumps out there as well.
Yeah. You know, I think we have Jeff Rasmussen. There he is. He was the project manager for that. I'm going to defer to him.
Yeah, Lou, we were real lucky. We work with PG&E in that that one solar farm at Shadow Cliffs powers about 96% of the district's energy needs district-wide. We can apply that energy at Shadow Cliffs to up to 50 meters across the district, including Contra Loma.
Okay, so you don't have any need for more capacity then?
Not currently, but as we expand, we may need to look at that.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Any other questions for Lisa? If not, then that was also an informational item. So we'll move on to our two action items for the day, which both involve Jeff. So I believe you're going to start with the CC budget and spending plan. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you very much, Rick. Jeff Rasmussen, Assistant Finance Officer. And as I begin my presentation, the comment was made how nice the presentation was. So before I begin, I want to thank Matthew James, who's logged on here. And if you can all look at, if you can see Matthew James, Matt, good to see you. But also, Matt, can you go back to your avatar or your picture? And can I share your that? So I want to thank Matt. As he's posed cheerfully in front of a Measure CC sign. And I just want to thank you for the presentation and also everyone's work, Matt's work, the board, and the PAC's work in helping to complete a lot of CC and be ready for a Measure FF election. So anyway, thanks to Matt for the presentation. I'm going to call him Mr. CC because he's here in front of the sign. And again, thanks to everybody that helped this complete and get through most of CC and then moving forward looking towards FF.
I wanted to point out too that I have a CC sign in my room too, so I'm very dedicated.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. So I'm going to begin a Measure CC and give you a brief update on some completed projects and then talk about the status of the project, status of CC and some uncompleted things. Measure CC actually helped fund a part of Kennedy Grove Playground. It didn't fund the playground, but it did fund the ADA pathway work, which is critically important for the project. So thanks to CC for the pathway repairs. As the PSC may or may not be aware, Measure CC began in 2004. So it was a 15-year program that sunsets during 2020. So we'll begin our last payments of that. And again, that was important of completing that for a Measure FF extension in November of 2018. CC along with FF, it's also important to realize that we don't get all the money at once. For CC, we get about $3.1 million a year, and for FF, it might be closer to $3.3 million a year. And especially as we ramp up on FF, it's important because you don't have enough money to do all the projects all at once. And it also measures CC and FF fund operational positions. So we need to fund the the operating, the FTEs and the operational projects in the beginning, and then fit in large capital projects as we can. And finally, so CC, there's no final expiration date on expending the funds, but we're working hard to complete the projects and close out Measure CC in 2020 and beyond. So where are we currently at? Measure CC has 83 projects in the voter approved list. 48 of those projects are completed and 35 of those projects are on track. And there's the kind of the split there graphically for you. But ultimately, we've spent almost a little more than $39 million has been expended, and we still have almost $7 million left to spend. So we're 85% complete spended and about 15% left to go. Here's a list of some projects that were completed in the last year or so. I won't read through that whole list, but you can take a look at that. Here's some pictures. If you haven't seen the Tilden EEC Creek restoration and pond restoration work, it's wonderful. It's good to have a nice fresh pond out in front of the EEC once again. So that was a good CC project. As I mentioned before, CC is unlike Measure WW, which funds capital projects. Measure CC also funds operational costs, such as the Crab Cove Visitor Center and operations at McLaughlin East Shore and such. And many of these projects were in CC and will continue through 2020 in Measure FF. It is important to point out here, though, that Measure CC was conceived and thought of over 15 years ago, and things change, and they are just estimates. So we will have to work in reconciling some of the staffing costs over the program. We've kind of gone over on projects. For instance, at Alameda Point, the project, the trail extension there got completed really early. So we only planned to operate it for like 10 years, but we had to operate it for the entire 15 years of the program. And Crab Cove Visitor Center just ended up being more costly than we expected. But we do expect to have about $1 million in excess revenue. Again, the $3.1 million is an estimate of revenue. So we expect the actual revenue will come in slightly higher, and we'll look to use some of those funds to cover those operational costs. Again, for those not familiar, one of our best operations is CC funded the year-round operation. Crab Cove used to close in the winter, and Measure CC and FF keeps it open. So in progress projects, we have about 20 projects that are in process, and some of those are funded by the reserve. What's important here, and I'll talk about more in depth, is we have two really important in progress projects, and that's the Miller-Knox rail removal and the Point Melati shoreline restoration and trail improvement project. So we'll talk about that. And finally, at the bottom of the slide here, we will need to, the board has the flexibility to modify the project descriptions in Measure CC. Again, it's impossible to think of a 15 or 20-year program exactly what the project's going to be. So we will be asking the board to modify the project at Claremont Canyon for the landslide, and modify this to, instead of repairing the landslide, which is less important, we need to remove the existing damaged park office up there and get the septic system out of there and out of the creek. And then that way we'll be able to clear the area for a potential trail access, which was the original intent of the Claremont Canyon project. So worked well with the PAC in 2015 and 16 to make modifications, and the board to complete Measure CC. And we will be asking the board to approve one more modification as we work towards closing out and finalizing CC. So two of those important projects that I mentioned, first is Miller-Knox to Keller Beach, San Francisco Bay Trail. This is a photograph looking up the trail. The Park District is working hard we're working hard to get Union Pacific Railroad to remove these tracks, and then we can extend the Bay Trail between Miller-Knox and Keller Beach, which you can see the red line on the right is kind of a map of that. We have about $1 million left in CC all told to go towards this project. Another important project is the Point Melati SF Bay Trail project from the Richmond San Rafael Bridge up to the Richmond Beachfront Park, which is a picture of that on the left there. This is an important Measure CC project. It's in Measure FF, and we've received some grants so far, and we continue to have a number of other grants out with the Resources Agency and California State Parks, and we're working hard with Richmond and TRAC to get this project done. And then some in progress projects. This is Albany Beach, which was mentioned in Lisa's presentation. That was it was in progress when we started here, but it now recently completed. And then also Safe and Healthy Forest was an important part of Measure CC, as it will be in Measure FF. And that's about it. So with that, I'll stop for a minute and take any questions you have on Measure CC and ask for recommend our spending plan to the full board.
Thank you, Jeff. Actually, I have a question for you. With the delays that you're encountering, for example, with the Miller-Knox Trail due to the discussions with the railroad, how does that impact the funds? How do they have to be used within a certain amount of time?
No, and this is actually true with Measure WW as well. There is no expiration date for the funds. They stop coming in. We won't collect anymore past 2020, but there is no expiration.
Great, thank you. Are there other questions for Jeff before we vote on forwarding this to the board?
Jeff, this is Andy Rickard. I've seen some problem with my session here, but the question I have is what railroads is he working with? Because the nonprofit museums would probably gobble that railroad up, the track up with if they were
Oh,
contacted.
no, this was the, I was referring to the lawsuit with Burlington Northern, right, Jeff? Yeah.
So there's the ownership of the rail stuff in here.
It's not involved with the railroad model group.
Oh, but have a Model Z. There's a number of literally pay you to take it away. So anyway, let me try to get my session redone because I'm literally locked out of here.
Okay. Are there other questions for Jeff? Okay, I believe then. Was that you, Andy? Or?
Is it possible to drop the questions screen so we can see each other?
Yes.
Looks like Rick is now on mute. Rick, we can't hear you. Uh-oh.
I got muted somehow. Sorry. A gremlin somewhere. Are there other questions? No. We've been asked then to approve the Measure CC finance plan to forward to the board. Do I hear a motion?
This is Roland. I'd make a motion to approve the what's the spending plan or capital plan?
This is Andy. I'd second that motion.
Okay, moved by Roland, seconded by Andy. Recording secretary, would you do a roll call for the vote, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair Rickard. Vice Chair Obringer?
Yes.
Member Andrade?
Yes.
Member Best?
Yes.
Member Brubaker?
Yes.
Member Buren?
Yes.
Member Burke?
Yes.
Member Carey?
Yes.
Member DeChambeau?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Member Dieter?
Yes.
Yes.
Member Gregory?
Yes.
Member Ho?
Yes.
Thank you. Member Robinson?
Yes.
Member San Juan?
Yes.
Member Skardoff?
Yes.
And Member Williams?
Yes.
And Member Rickard, Chair Rickard.
Yes, and I believe that Rochelle Nason is with us now as well.
Oh, I apologize.
No problem. Yes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. That motion passes, and we will move on to Measure FF. Jeff.
Great, thank you. Great, thank you. So this is the very first steps and beginning of Measure FF. It's hard for me to admit that I was here for start of CC and proud to be at the end, and I'm happy to be here at the start of FF, but I know I will not be here for the end. Maybe Matthew, James, and others will have to be there for that. But beginning off Measure FF, it's basically a continuation of Measure CC, approved by 85% of the voters. And again, it's about $3.3 million per year this time. And again, that's an estimate. And we actually begin collecting revenue for that in July this year. Right now, for 2020 is when the revenue begins. And just to remind the PAC, the focus, the general managers and the board districts and the board's focus for FF was public safety, environmental conservation, facility improvements, environmental education, green transportation, and 11.59 full-time equivalents for staffing. So of critical importance to the program is Measure FF staffing. So here's a quick overview of the FTEs and the staffing plan for Measure FF by park or location. And then at the bottom here, Measure CC had a lot of number of FTEs in it or full-time equivalents, and Measure FF does, but they're not exactly aligned up. So 2.19 FTEs from CC will not be moving forward into Measure FF. And this includes a fire captain, and then the little parts of people in maintenance and skilled trades, heavy equipment operator, park ranger, some plumber, and a sanitation driver. So those will have to be funded as part of the general fund, which is also an impact on our on our 2021 budget, especially as we go into COVID, but they won't be able to be funded by CC anymore. Just as a reminder, on the right is maybe I should have put this even the first one for those. This is the same boundary. This is the measure CC boundary, the measure FF boundary. They're the exact same locations. Nothing's changed. FF's an extension of CC. Well, as I mentioned then, so we actually do start collecting FF funds for the second half of 2020. And so the board has appropriated in mid-year, as part of our mid-year budget process, has got us started with putting some funding of $1 million to high priority projects. So they put money towards the Crown Beast expansion and infrastructure improvement. They put money towards green transportation and trails at Point Melody and Doolittle, and then put just a small amount of money to get us started on the Temescal water quality improvements. Temescal water quality improvement project is going to be a huge project. There's about $1.5 million in FF, and that certainly may not be able to fund everything we need to do there. But in all these cases, this is important funding for getting the engineering and environmental studies we need, and then that'll allow us to pursue other funding. That's been the great secret of CC, WW, and FF, is that with this money, we can use it to help them pursue other money. So yeah, I should have mentioned. So here's a great picture of Lake Temescal. As I said, FF only has about $1.5 million in it, and any kind of dredging or restoration project will certainly cost more than that, but FF gives us a great leverage of funds to keep that project moving forward. Here the measure FF for the expansion of the park and improving the infrastructure. And one of the main things before we can do anything is to work on the sewer line down here McKay Avenue. Until that's improved, there's nothing we can do with the new federal properties you can see on the right, or not very much else at the visitor center or anything else there. So looking forward to the 2021 budget, the staff is proposing $1.4 million in the preliminary budget, and it's in the schedule. Focused again on green transportation. The Oakland Zoo, as in CC and FF, gets about $100,000 a year. Point Isabel, shoreline stabilization is a priority. Redwood tree conservation in FF talks about a partnership with the Save the Redwoods League for doing interpretation and conservation of redwoods. And then our safe and healthy forests, our fuels management projects will continue and be an important part of FF. And then we have priority projects at Sibley, Huckleberry, and Tilden getting started. And then some of the water quality improvements that I mentioned before at Tilden, at Temescal will continue. And so with that, I will take any questions and I will lower this.
Thank you, Jeff. I have one question for you, and that is, I know that the property tax revenue is expected to decline in future years as a result of the current situation. I assume that's not as great a concern for FF, since it is a per parcel tax, not based on the assessment.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think I was going to say that AR is an estimate, that's a long measure, but I think you're right, Rick. Since it's based on parcel number, not assessed value or property values, I think it should remain stable.
That's correct. I'll just echoing what you have already said. So it's not based on assessed value, it's just per parcel.
Okay, so there might be some minor impact from foreclosures or something, but not as large as the assessment decline.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay. Are there other questions for Jeff?
I have one question. It's actually on the list of projects. Line number 23, Water Resources Regional. It's got a large allocation, and I'm just wondering if they're,
Go ahead.
I think you
have
froze up.
yet. Oh, are you there? Can you hear me now?
Try it again.
Yep.
Put it in.
We're not hearing you. I see Irene's hand. Let me go to Irene and then come back to Adela if we can get her back in. Irene?
Irene, it looks like your microphone mute is disabled, but we can't hear you. So your mute is off, but we can't hear you.
We can't hear Adela or Irene. Should we try Carlin and see if the third time is the charm?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I just had a question about, I see the item, it's the Green Transportation Regional Trails. So I just wanted to know some more about that. I see that San Francisco is mentioned, and also it's talking about enabling, I'm trying to read it here. It's specifically in disadvantaged communities. And so I was just wondering where other than San Francisco would this funding go for trails? Because I can think of a few, for example, in Contra and in Concord. So I was just wondering where that funding would also be applied other than San Francisco.
Well, it's the San Francisco Bay Trail, but it's a good question. So this measure CC and FF funding is only eligible in the FFCC zone. I don't know if you remember I showed the pictures of East Bay.
Got it.
And unfortunately, most of that area is rather disadvantaged. So we have a lot of good opportunities there.
Understood. Thank you.
I see Adela has typed her question in the chat box, so I will read it to you, Jeff, or you can see it there. Water Resources Regional. The description is pretty general. I understand that you may not yet have it refined. How will potential projects be prioritized within this $4.8 million item?
Yeah, that's a good question. First and foremost, a lot of it is there's a good amount towards water resources technician. There's just so much required in testing and evaluation and stuff like that. So a lot of the money is going towards that. And then the other major identified project, as I mentioned earlier, is the Temescal. Temescal continues to be a really important water quality issue. And then, yes, there are some other projects that are important to the district, such as Jewel Lake and other, urban creek restorations, but largely for staffing and Temescal, and then other projects as we can determine.
Okay, she just
Rick, this is Eric. I just wanted to add, Jeff's done a great job with the questions. I just wanted to add that both of those categories plus the wildfire category were written to be zone wide so that funding in each of those three line items could be spent anywhere in the CC/FF zone. That was a bit of a departure from Measure CC, where everything was park specific, but we realized active transportation, paved trails, water resources, and wildfire protection didn't really know boundaries. So we purposely created three categories that were independent and could be used anywhere in the zone. And that's also why they're have a little bit of extra money in them, because they're intended to be spread out throughout, I think it was the 9 cities that make up the Measure C and Measure FF zone.
Thanks. Adela added another question, which is where the project description says stewardship efforts, multiple projects use this. What do you envision these efforts will entail?
Again, I think there is money in there for a water quality technician, and really that is an important part. We can't even begin to tackle this problem until we well understand where our water quality issues are and how severe they are. So that is the first part of that, and with that, we'll be able to then have better information about where to focus our projects.
Great, thank you. Sharon, Andy Carey indicates he's video locked out by the organizer. I don't know if you can do anything about that or not. And Adela has a comment in response to your answer. She says, actually, it's nice to have the flexibility so the money can be used as match money for grants. So, thank you for that answer.
Oh, I'm back. Yay.
Oh, there, you're back. Did you have a question?
No.
Oh, okay. Irene, do you still have a question? Apparently not. Okay. Any other questions for Jeff? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the Measure FF
I move to approve Measure FF's funding.
funding plan. Moved by Andy Carey and second by
Igor.
Igor. Any further discussion? Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair Rickard. Vice Chair Obringer,
Yes.
Member Andrade, Member Andrade,
Yes.
thank you. Member Best,
Yes.
Member Brubaker,
Yes.
Member Buren,
Yes.
Member Burke,
Yes.
Member Carey,
Yes.
Member DeChambeau,
Yes.
Member Dieter, yes. Okay, Member Gregory,
Yes.
Member Ho,
Yes.
Member Nason, Member Nason,
Yes.
Member Robinson,
Yes.
Member San Juan,
Yes.
Member Skardoff,
Yes.
Member Williams,
Yes.
and Chair Rickard.
Yes,
Thank you.
we're passing. That item passes. Thank you, Jeff. Are there other comments from PAC members? This is the time for PAC members to share with us.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry.
Lou.
Yeah. Hi. I I was going to ask about saw an article in the LA Times online about park use, and you know, we've been talking about a little bit about how the parks are kind of overwhelmed by new users, and there's a little bit more trash and so on. Can I? Let me see. So anyway, what I was going to say is I think we took out a lot of garbage cans, and regarding the garbage was one of the problems. We took out a lot of garbage cans, and I see that a lot of them have been replaced, but maybe not all of them. And I'm wondering if staff is going to be replacing them, or why haven't they all been replaced? I think it would help a lot in reducing some of the problems we've been having.
Okay. Does anyone on
Can you hear
staff?
me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Anyone on staff want to respond to that?
Hi, Rick. This
If
is
not,
Jim O'Connor.
comment.
Yeah, in answer to the question about the trash cans, most of the trash cans were returned. There's a lot of areas, especially group picnic areas, where we hadn't put them back in yet. But most of the areas where parks are open should have trash cans back. But I'll do a little checking with staff, but I'm pretty sure most of them are back in areas where people are either hiking or in lawn areas. So I'll check that out.
Yeah, one of the trails I know it doesn't have. Well, one that used to have one doesn't have it now. So anyway, just curious. Thank you.
You can always send that information to me too, Lou.
All right, thank you.
Great, thanks. Any other comments from PAC members?
This is Andy. I have a question about the current status of the Mission Peak Stanford Avenue parking issue.
Jim, do you have any?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Sure. I want to know what's going on with the Mission Peak Stanford Avenue parking area. That was a big issue a couple months ago, and I haven't heard anything about it since.
In terms of, it was closed for a period of time early in the pandemic, but we're back open for regular business now.
Okay.
Thank you. Other comments?
I have a quick comment.
So the Pittsburgh Planning Commission is going to hear from Discovery Homes on the Perea development, which is right uphill or on the other side of the ridge from the Concord Hills Regional Park. That meeting is tomorrow. And if you guys feel like doing some light reading, I guess I'm going to call that light reading, EIR is available. And since it's going to be our neighbor in the future, I think it might be a good thing. I'm on the commission, so I'm going to be chiming in either way.
Great. Carlin.
Thank you. And I thank Elisa for her service, and that should be an interesting meeting tomorrow night. I just want to express my thanks to everyone here who has worked so hard over the years, including board member Corbett for voting for approval of the land use plan for the Concord Hills Regional Park, which I understand is still the working name. But I just want to express my appreciation. People are very excited about that. And that's just yet another positive step toward helping to realize the regional vision for a world-class project at the former Naval Weapons Station. So I just want to express my appreciation about the group effort to make that possible.
And someday we can go out there.
Yes, someday.
Irene, did you have a comment? No? Any other comments from PAC members? I have no report from the chair. Anyone who has attended committees meetings that would like to report on that? If not, any old business? Any new business?
Just a reminder, Rick, that our next meeting will be in September, but we still are not planning to meet in August.
Correct. Yes. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate that. And it will be at 4 p.m. As was today's meeting. If there's no further business, then I will adjourn the meeting at 5:45.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good weekend, week, folks.